1. I'm a 21-year-old woman, moved into a student apartment almost a month ago with a friend from high school, a 20-year-old man. We both attended the same college and both needed a roommate, and since we've always gotten along well, we figured it would be perfect. The problem is, it seems like we aren't as compatible as roommates as we originally thought. Also, the lease cannot be broken. Plus, I really do love the apartment itself. Here are some issues we have been having. He has taken up 80% of the kitchen space with his stuff. The kitchen does not have a ton of storage and counter space, and the space it does have is used for his belongings. He cooks a lot, which is great, but he has brought too much kitchen stuff. We just do not have the space. Same type of thing in the fridge and food cabinet. 90% of the space is covered in his food. We brought excessive amounts of Tupperware, even though he hates leftovers. Basically, he puts leftovers in the Tupperware and then lets them sit in the fridge. Food he made the first week is still there, in my Tupperware, because he ran out of his own. I asked him earlier to please clean out my Tupperware since he clearly isn't going to eat the food, and he said he's too tired to do it today. Dishes. I understand leaving dishes in the sink for a bit when things get hectic. Whatever. He leaves them all over the counter, utensils covered in food that he never washes himself. I end up being the one to have to do them. I told him to start putting them in the dishwasher, but he just puts them on the counter above the dishwasher, not even rinsed off. As for when he does use the dishwasher, the other day I had to leave for class and hadn't had time to finish unloading it. I sent him a text telling him the dishes in it were clean. We also have a magnet on the dishwasher that says whether they are clean or dirty. He reads the text, doesn't reply. I get home and lo and behold, he has mixed his dirty dishes in with all the clean ones. So now I have to start the whole thing over. I asked him, didn't you see my text? He laughed and said, oops, I forgot. The other night he made a huge mess cooking and left everything. I started doing his dishes and he just kind of watched, then went to his room. I realize I need to leave dishes for him to do, but we have already seen bugs, and if I leave them, there will be a family of roaches in the sink. He leaves appliances on. The stove and the oven have both been left on for hours. You can't do that. Furthermore, he leaves trash and plastic stuff on the stove while he's using it. I told him I'm concerned about all this and to please be more careful, because he's going to cause a fire. He never locks the door, ever. Whenever I get home from class, I try to unlock the door just to find it's actually unlocked. In the mornings, he leaves before me. I wake up to find that he has left the apartment and not locked the door. I know the chances of someone walking in are slim, but still, as a young female, I don't feel safe being in a downtown apartment with the door unlocked. I have continuously reminded him to lock it, and have had zero success. He's weird about me having friends, family, my boyfriend over. I texted him before we moved in to tell him my family were going to come see the apartment, then take me to dinner the night after move-in. I asked if he wanted to go. He never answered. I also asked if it would be okay if my boyfriend came over that weekend. No response. I asked him about this later, and he said that those texts were too overwhelming. In the past, he loved hanging out with my family and boyfriend, so I'm just super confused. I never have people over for long, and when I do, he usually isn't even here. He goes home every weekend. He never answers my texts. I will ask him if he wants to go to a certain event. I'm trying to maintain this friendship, or tell him about the dishwasher status and whatnot. He won't answer, even when I'm asking questions. I asked him about this, and he said I don't reply to messages that overwhelm me. The messages are just literally me asking him if he wants to go to a campus event or something like that. He does text me about other stuff, just ignores whatever I'm saying. He has a cat, and just does not treat him the best. He's a kitten, and sleeps in his room with him. The other night he came into my room at 10 p.m. laughing, saying I ran out of litter. Stuff like that. Why is that funny? He's so irresponsible with the cat it drives me insane. He will not stop sighing so loudly. I hear it from my room with the door shut. It's like he's trying to get me to ask what's wrong. He just always seems to be in a bad mood or stressed, and it's really bringing me down. I understand all of these are small things, and I might be overreacting. I just genuinely am so tired of having to constantly remind him to do things that are common sense. It feels like I'm his mom. Before we moved in, I talked about how I like to keep everything clean, and he said he was super clean as well. It just feels like he's a different person than the guy I'd met 6 years ago. I feel a lot of guilt for being so annoyed because I know it could be much worse. I'm wondering if maybe I'm just making a big deal out of nothing. But every time I say that to someone else, they say I'm gaslighting myself. I just don't know what to do. Any advice is appreciated. Hellfreezer's note. Well, no, it is certainly not the worst story I've ever heard. It does sound extremely irksome. You know you shouldn't be doing his dishes or cleaning up after him, anything like that. So don't. I get there's an issue with bugs, but just take care of yourself. Do your own stuff. Also, I would definitely encourage you to stop replying to his texts and just tell him that you're overwhelmed by them. While it is definitely possible he has some sort of anxiety disorder, I've honestly never heard of anyone who would have a problem with the kind of text that you're sending to him. They seem so basic and harmless. Do you want to have dinner with my family whom you already know? It seems very, very odd. 2. For a little context, I, 20 and female, live in a housing program. I have no control over where I stay, so moving out is not an option. I have a roommate, 19 and female. She moved in late June. Started off super sweet, and I thought we would get along great. I quickly realized she has no concept of cleaning up after herself. I've tried really hard to be patient, because I guess she doesn't know how to clean, and wasn't allowed to growing up. I've offered to help. The people who work in the housing program have offered to help, and it's been made clear that she just doesn't want to. There's constantly dirty dishes scattered around the common area in the apartment we share. Clothes everywhere. I can't even sit at the living room table because her things are just piled everywhere. We've had roommate meetings, chore charts, good communication, and nothing changes. This is low-key hard for me because I grew up in a hoarder house, and being around clutter like this brings up some really bad memories. Just to really let you guys know how gross things are, there's now fruit flies in the fridge, and I lost my mind today when I found a Big Mac sitting on the bathroom floor. The bathroom is constantly covered in balled-up toilet paper, and there's eyeshadow caked all over the sink, and I'm always having to tiptoe around her clothes. Always leaves bowls of ramen sitting all over the living room. Pots and pans on the stove with food still in them. Doesn't even bother to move them to the sink. It's not just the cleanliness that's the problem, but she also has no respect for my stuff. I found her using my towel. I let her use my gaming console once, and not even within a day there was corrupted messages on it. My food is constantly going missing. For example, I went grocery shopping for some snacks to eat while I do homework. I bought 5 yogurt cups, came back the next day to find one left. When I confronted her about it, she said she was high. Supposed to be in a sober living housing program, and couldn't control her actions. This is the first time she has taken something of mine because she just couldn't help herself. She offered to pay me back, but only did so because, and I quote, "Otherwise I'm going to feel guilty." She tends to try to guilt-trip me a lot. I stopped hanging around as much, a little before things got mad, because I'm introverted and mostly like to be alone after school or work. She would and still does make passive-aggressive comments about me being introverted. After she had an incident with a creepy man at a gas station, which I let her vent to me about, she tried to use that as a way to make me feel bad, to make me hang out with her more. This has been going on for 3 months now. I'm so tired. It's not because she doesn't have time. She skips school to sit on the front steps of the building across the street to vape with her boyfriend. She's literally never home except for late at night, pretty much leaving me to live with whatever mess she leaves around. I've tried all forms of communication and even offered to help since she said she doesn't know how. Try to be supportive and listen to her vents, but it's mostly just backfired. I come from an abusive household, so I'm mortified of losing my temper and hurting someone, which is why I haven't raised my voice yet. I'm aware I'm being a doormat. I really just want a peaceful way out of this. I don't know what to do anymore. Living in this space is miserable. Update. Thanks guys for all the support and advice. One of the people who work here came over last night and they are handling it. In the meantime, I should be able to change apartment units, meaning I'll be living alone again and shouldn't have any roommate issues for now. If anything else happens, which hopefully this should be the end of it, I'll post another update. Thanks again, guys. 3. I started college a little over 2 weeks ago. It's been an adjustment, but I'm figuring things out. I went into it not really knowing anyone here, so it's been a little hard finding my people, but I'm getting there. Because I didn't know anyone going to the school, I went with random roommates. My school overbooked the dorm, so a lot of kids got assigned to a triple, me being one of them. I talked to my roommates briefly over Instagram just to discuss room decor and basic introductions before move-in day, and they seemed nice enough. Not really my type of people, but hey, we're just roommates. We don't have to be best friends, we just have to live together. Even so, the first 2 days I hung out primarily with my roommates, K and M. The first night, after a school prep rally, I went to a dorm party with M and her friends, a giant group of girls she met previous to moving in. We walked up and down the halls of one of the dormitories here on campus looking for a party. It was low-key awkward. All these girls knew each other from high school or senior week or something, so they all had history, and I was kind of just there. After 30 minutes of meaningless meandering, I realized my roommate had disappeared, and now I was just walking with a group of people I didn't know. Turns out they were all from the same high school, and I'd gotten myself mixed up in some high school reunion that I had no business joining along for, so I ended up just walking home. Kay joined me back at our dorm shortly after, and we chatted a bit. She said that M planned to leave for the party without me, leaving me stranded at the pep rally, even though she had invited me to the party as well. Kay had told her to wait for me, which she did. I brushed it off, admitting that I'd gotten split up from the group at the pep rally, and I could understand not wanting to wait for me or trying to find me. The second night, there was a frat party that M and her friends were going to, which they, again, invited Kay and I to join along for. The party started at 10 p.m., but we all left our dorm around 8 to get ready at M's friend's place. The whole time we were there, I felt out of place. M's friends made conversation with Kay, but they didn't talk to me. I felt as if I were invisible, like they were all looking past me. That doesn't exactly make someone want to be social. So I kind of just sat there as all the girls talked. I'm a very social person, it's not like me to feel so awkward. But it was like someone had cut out my tongue. Insecurity and shame started to consume me. Jesus, I felt so out of place, like no one wanted me there. At one point, Em and her friend were talking about card games, and I said, "Do you guys know how to play 500? They never even looked at me, didn't turn their heads, didn't shift their eyes, they stared straight forward at each other, again as if I wasn't even there. Still not looking at me, Em said, "No, what's that?" The hostility in her voice caught me so off guard. All I could stutter out was, a card game. They stared at each other a moment longer, still not looking at me. I could see the corners of Em's lips turn upward. It felt straight out of a high school movie. Silence filled the room until Em eventually said, "Okay," and then their conversation continued. From that moment it was pretty clear to me that I was unwanted there, so I waited for Em to leave the room and for Kay to come back from her shower, to excuse myself and go home. I told Kay that I felt really sick and needed to head back, and she seemed really concerned, not believing me. She kept asking if I was really okay, and if I wanted her to come back with me, but I was persistent, and told her that I'd be fine. I really did appreciate Kay in that moment. I went home with a pit in my stomach. I felt so ashamed, even though I knew I didn't really do anything wrong. I still wanted to go to the frat. I love parties, but I'm not stupid enough to go to one alone. The rest of the night was actually sort of nice. I played Mario Kart with some people from my dorm, met some really cool people, kissed a guy or two, then went to bed. I explained to Kay why I left the following morning, apologizing for leaving. I wasn't talking ill of Em or anything like that. I was just explaining how I felt and how I didn't want to intrude. She felt agreeing that she felt something was off between me and Em. We were both sort of walking around the subject, though. After all, we all have to live with each other for the next year. Best not to start anything. Sorry, that was a lot of history. But I just wanted to paint a clear picture. Since that night, I haven't talked to Em unless spoken to, besides asking her if she wants anything while I'm out or if she needed medicine while she was sick, etc. As I stated previously, I never needed my roommates to be my best friends and never want to force myself onto their plans. I could tell we didn't jive, and that was all right. I just tried my best to stay out of her way. There were still some remnants of insecurity when she and her friends were around, especially regarding Kay, because I didn't know where she sat in the whole situation. But the other night she reassured me that she didn't dissociate with how they were treating me, and she hoped I knew she was there if I ever needed her. And since then, I haven't felt any insecurity regarding Em. Like, whatever, we don't mix, that's fine. I found people that I like, and it's okay. For the last week and a half, we literally haven't spoken a word to one another, so when I say we don't interact, I mean it. Wow, the tolerance I thought we had for one another wasn't as tolerant as I assumed it to be. Due to some boy drama between Kay and Em, a whole other story I will not be getting into, Kay has been extra annoyed by Em, and she ended up opening up to me about what Em has been doing. Apparently, she has been talking crap about me to her friends, both in real life and in the group chat Kay is in. She's been calling me a weirdo, annoying, strange, etc. Even worse than that, she has been making up stories about me. She told her friends that I had asked to draw her. Literally never happened. In fact, she asked me if I could draw her, and I politely declined. Kay was sort of dancing around the subject again, not wanting to create drama, but there is definitely more I haven't been told. This really threw me for a loop. I'm more angry than I am sad. I'm angry and shocked that people are acting like this in college as adults, and I'm angry because of how blatantly cruel it is to do that to someone. And listen, I'm weird. I always have been. I take pride in it. But I'm not weird roommate weird. I have lots of friends back home. I was generally well liked in high school, not that it matters. I was class president. I had friends all across different cliques. This person that she sees me as, this person she's created through her stories, it's not me. She does not know me. We don't talk. So I'm not even hurt by what she's actually saying, because she's obviously insecure and unwell, and if being me is bothering her that much, then she has issues she needs to sort out. I don't know what to do from here. We're 2 weeks in, and I have to live with this girl for another 9 months. I want to confront her like an adult, not in a drama way. But I also don't want to cause stress for myself and Kay. I also don't feel completely comfortable saying nothing, though. I don't want to play this part for her and let her comfortably bully me while I stand by and let it happen. What's the correct course of action here? Hellfreezer's note. This isn't really the advice you want to hear, but the fact of the matter is, in life, there are going to be people who just don't like you. And it's not going to be because of anything you've done. Like here, it doesn't seem like you've done anything wrong. You sound like you've been quite civil. It's just going to happen. So, don't confront her. Don't challenge her. Be polite to her. I wouldn't go out of my way to do favors for her. Like if she's sick, Amazon and GoPuff exist. Let her take care of her own stuff. Just live your life. Someone in the Reddit responses mentioned focus on your studies. That's really good advice. You're there to learn, and that should be your utmost priority. The dorm's really just a place you sleep and study quietly. You don't need to associate with her. You don't even really need to think of her. So if she wants to tell lies about you, let her tell the lies. It's ultimately having no effect on your life. You're not trying to befriend her friends, unless you want to try and do that and take them away from her, but that sounds like so much work. But just leave her be, and let her exist, being her, because it sounds like quite an unfortunate existence from where I'm standing. 4. I'm a 32-year-old woman, just needed to vent for a moment. Before I do, I want to say I'm moving in less than a month and will not have to deal with her anymore. So I just needed to get this frustration off my chest. I don't need advice or resolution. My roommate, 28-year-old woman, has been awful for the last 4 years. She's damaged my property, allowed her cat to disrupt my sleep, scratching at my bedroom door every night. She showers and uses the toilet with the door wide open, even after being asked not to because it makes me uncomfortable. And when I have politely requested simple accommodations in the living space, like half an hour of quiet because I was nursing a headache, I have been met with her backing me into a corner and yelling at me for being demanding and unreasonable. 2 months ago, she made unsolicited comments about my eating habits that triggered my eating disorder, and I was lucky enough to have a therapy appointment a few days later. But even today, I'm still ruminating over my eating habits because of her comments. 6 weeks ago, we got into a fight because our drains get clogged every month or so, and she refuses to acknowledge the rice she pours down the drain almost daily is contributing to the problem. Instead, trying to blame everyone else in the apartment building for our problem, which is isolated to our kitchen drain. My plumber X tells me that it's unlikely to be a main plumbing line issue when it's a drain-specific problem. She also put a cheese grater on top of my less than a year old immaculate condition non-stick pan, scratching up the coating on it. And she's been doing these things while simultaneously expecting me to look after her cat 3 days a week, so she can go and stay with her boyfriend at his mom's $1 million home. Every time I call her out and ask her to change her behavior so we can both live comfortably and securely in the home we pay to share, she either lashes out at me or gives me the silent treatment. Well, I've finally had enough and found a new place to live. When I served her my notice, I explicitly told her that it was a direct result of the constant disrespect towards me, my belongings, my personal space, and my comfort in the home that has been ongoing since the day I moved in, and that I was tired of living with someone whose response to conflict ranges from juvenile to abusive, depending on what kind of day she's having. I told her she was inconsiderate, and I was tired of having to tiptoe around her and modify my entire life to avoid her tantrums, because asking for minor adjustments to her behavior is apparently too difficult for her. She hasn't spoken to me in 5 weeks, but she has stooped to a whole new level of inconsiderate that left me infuriated when I discovered it yesterday afternoon. The vast majority of the kitchen tools belong to me, so I have been slowly packing up the ones that I will not need between now and moving day. This includes the spatulas I have been allowing her to use, because I have a set of kitchen tools I won't let her use stored in my drawers, because I don't trust her not to damage them. So I packed up the rest of them and sealed the box. My roommate can't find the courage to talk to me about the remaining bills or who will be responsible for returning my damaged deposit. Landlord gave us the option of her new roommate reimbursing me or him paying me out. Instead, she's just been leaving notes for me, which, on its own, is fine. I would rather not talk to her, but the issue is, despite the fact that she's not brave enough to have a 2-minute conversation with me, she is more than okay with opening the sealed box of my belongings labeled kitchen tools and appliances to pull out and use one of the spatulas I already packed up. It's so frustrating. I discovered this because I saw the spatula in the dish rack and I thought, hey, that looks like mine. But initially I just assumed she had bought one of her own. That was exactly the same as one of mine. That was until I went into the storage room to put another packed box and found all my boxes had been moved and the kitchen tools box was now open on top of the stack. Sure enough, my spatula was not in the box. She's so salty that I called her inconsiderate and immature, but then proceeds to give me nearly 6 weeks of silent treatment, and then go through my belongings without permission. She's really doing a great job proving I am wrong about her. Who does that? Who just opens a sealed box that belongs to someone else, just to use an item that can be purchased at the dollar store, that's less than 5 minutes from our apartment? For less than $5? I cannot wait to be free of this girl. She is insufferable. 5. I want to start by saying my partner and I live in a fairly unique spot. It's a property guardianship, and we share a primary school with around 20 others. The classrooms have been converted into awesome studio-sized spaces, but we share the toilets, kitchens, gardens, etc. It's paradise apart from the absolute walking nightmare of a person we happen to share a wall with. She firstly has the craziest cleaning standards I have ever encountered. It goes beyond the realms of keeping things clean and tidy, and these demands are shoved down our throats daily with WhatsApp messages and constant negativity and whinging in conversation. Unnecessary things like bleaching sponges, bleaching the kitchen floor daily, hoovering the hall which is not in use, bleaching the countertops, sometimes even while people are still cooking or eating. I have never seen so much bleach in my life. Thing is, she loves to be the one to do all this, and then complain how other people aren't scrubbing so much their hands are bleeding. She has to be the one to do it all. She also has to be involved in every other conversation, example, replying to group chat requests sent to the whole house that don't involve her, or she can't help with just for the sake of it. She follows you around the kitchen asking relentless questions about what you are cooking and asking to try your food, often before you've even had the chance to taste it yourself, and making incredibly unfunny jokes about how much mess there is, or if you're eating something unhealthy, you'll hear about it. She's also been mad invasive, no boundaries. She once showed up at another housemate's garden door at night while she was in bed with her boyfriend, knocking at the window to offer her some soup as she said she wanted some. She has shown up in our room before, no knock. She has also deemed it acceptable to sit down with my partner and my dad when we had him over for dinner and some bonding time. She just sat down without an invite and started quizzing my dad about his job, a subject he hates. I had some gal pals over for Valentine's, and she forced herself onto the table trying to get stuck into our conversations, despite her not knowing any of the people we were talking about. She tried to spray the table with bleach and take people's glasses away when they weren't done drinking yet. She greeted each of my close friends as they entered before I had the chance, saying stuff like, "Oh my god, girl, how have you been?" to people she has never met before. They were baffled, and my friend tracked dog crap into the house, and I thought she was going to have an aneurysm. She started asking where the poo was and running around bleaching everything. She's very sensitive about noise, and sadly, we are music lovers and we like to have friends over, so this is another sticking point. Last night she showed up in our room again at 9:30 p.m. to say we were keeping her up as she had an early flight. I get it when it's actually late and feel for her at times like that, but it's how she labors the complaint like she's actually getting a kick out of it. At 9:30 p.m., it's not our fault you booked an early flight and you have chosen to live with 20 people. We've had messages before along the lines of, "You're making me sick, you will hospitalize me if you don't turn it down." Or, "I fell down an escalator at work today almost, because I didn't get enough sleep." Really ridiculously overly exaggerating. Yesterday we got a message asking to mop up any puddles in the hall. Sometimes the roof leaks. This was early in the AM, so I don't think anyone had even had the chance to see the puddle, let alone mop it up, before we were hit with the spiel, "Please, someone else needs to mop the puddle, even though I've already done it because I almost slipped and broke my leg, and I already have leg issues and nearly lost my leg at one point in my life." It just snowballs into some unrequested sob story right away. It's a puddle. How are you triggered by a puddle? Absolutely everyone is reaching their limit with her controlling and weird behavior. But I know she won't move out of her own accord. We can't complain about her either, because we break our fair share of rules, no parties, no people staying over, no pets. So I guess what I'm asking is, what do I do about this insufferable situation? A Hellfreezer's note, you need to start enforcing boundaries, like, why is she in your room? And get a lock for your door, and if you can't get a proper lock, then get a travel lock that's something that does no damage to the door, and you stick it in at night, and it keeps it closed. Then she won't be randomly entering your room. I think really that's the most you can do. I'd block her if she's sending you unsolicited WhatsApp messages. I mean, I honestly, personally speaking, I don't understand why people do that these days. I understand that it's become a thing, I recognize that, but really, friends and family are the only ones who should have access to that. People you share a space with, they don't need that kind of access to you. So block off as much contact as you're able to. Obviously not the group chat that is perhaps required for the easy running of the household, but apart from that, I think you just have to put up with the rest of her shenanigans. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates, episode 32. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do that by joining our memberships, or our Patreon. They have different options. Patreon is essentially pay what you feel. Memberships here on YouTube is tiered. Patreon's linked in the description, as is my merchandise store and my Discord server. You can also leave a tip if you want, that's underneath the video. Okay. No other business today, so let's move along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, and this one comes thanks to Newcomb via the Discord, did you ever have anything that had a trick to it, like a door you have to push, then pull, or a headphone jack plug, and jiggle it until it works? My front gate is actually like that. And I think that might be why some people don't bother to close it when they come in, by which I mean 95% of all people. Hell, some of them don't even close it all the way over properly. But anyway, it's not difficult. You just simply when you're pulling the bolt closed, to keep the gate closed, to keep it from opening, you just very slightly lift it. It doesn't even take a lot of effort. And I could figure that out, so I don't know why anyone else couldn't. But I'm not angry about it. No, not at all. But why don't you share some of yours in a comment below? And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And I believe this question was about when does spooky season start for you? And today's answer comes from Annie Northman. I apologize for the accent I'm about to do. The spooky season never ends for the folks of the night. For some it starts around September, but for those that absolutely love all things gothic, horror, Halloween, witchy, etc., like myself, it's all year round. Thank you very much for your answer, Annie Northman. And with that, I'm gonna head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves. Stuff, I was gonna go, wasn't I? Yep.